Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's Gita for You podcast. Thank you for joining us today. And today we'll be continuing with the 16th chapter of the Gita. And Prabhuji, if you could start off this session with Mangalacharan prayers.
Sure, bro. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna. Just to summarize where we left off last week Prabhuji gave us a beautiful uh, yardstick how to measure our spiritual progress in our life. And he mentioned different various qualities, list of qualities for each of the varnas and each of the ashramas, and wherever we are in our life, wherever we may be in our spiritual life or material life, we can aspire for those qualities and try to accumulate them, and we can check whether I have this quality or not, and I should aspire to gain this and to progress in my spiritual life. So that's where we left off. And who should I start with my questions?
Yes, so we had covered, yeah. So now we will be continuing with the verses ahead.
Yes, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, today in today's day and age, especially among people of my age, the youth, people who are, especially in our country, where majority of the population is under the age of 30 or 40, if I'm not wrong. The aspiration to become rich and famous, to become wealthy, to become a leader in the society is very high. And I see around myself, everybody is trying to follow the capitalist American model where they want to become rich and famous. And at the same time, there is awareness that ये सब तो क्षणिक है. It is fleeting. You may have wealth today, you may not have. So, should not becoming rich and famous be the most important ambition of youth, Prabhu?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I was recently in conversation with a young teenager and then with a college going boy. Like, so with both of them, the conversation was about mm, that that's it. You now is the time. Now is the time to go full throttle, become rich or famous by hook or by crook. If Instagram makes you rich or famous, go for it. If YouTube makes you rich and famous, go for it, or whatever it takes. Go up the corporate ladder, and even if that means sacrificing my values, sacrificing my family commitment, uh, everything is uh, acceptable. So there is this dilemma that definitely the society today endorses becoming rich and famous as the most important ambition. Mm. But at the same time, uh, people feel the vacuum that is there in the lives of those who are rich and famous, isn't
Mhm.
it? So what is advertised, the product of is advertised that become rich and famous. हाँ, so like कोई तो YouTube ad आते रहते हैं ना, फ्लैश करते रहते हैं उसमें the one coach is asking, why are you not a crorepati, why are you not a crorepati, बच्चा बच्चा crorepati बन रहा है. तुम क्यों करोड़पति नहीं हो? So basically, मतलब it's just acceptable, it's just taken for granted कि भाई हर किसी को करोड़पति होना है. Yeah. And then when that is being indoctrinated, people start feeling inadequate if they can't become rich and famous. Yeah. So let's understand it from Gita's perspective. Uh, I'll read out to you certain verses also, but I'll begin with a question to all of you who are attending. Uh, what do you call someone who wants to go to a prison and become a prisoner willfully? Have you means come across or read about or seen a person who says नहीं मुझे तो जेल जाना है. हाँ, मुझे तो जेल जाना है मतलब someone is so enthusiastic and aspiring कि मुझे जेल जाना है. I want to become a prisoner. बेटा क्या बनोगे बड़े होके? I want to become a prisoner. कहाँ जाओगे? I want to go to the prison. So have you come across someone like this? Please, you can type in the chat box. Okay, maybe need some professional psychological help. Mindset is not right. Hmm. Yeah. What else? नहीं सुना ना ऐसा, है ना? Someone saying aspiration in life is to become a prisoner or to go to the prison. Uh, but is it not that today's society is gearing everyone to become a prisoner of the definition of success, a prisoner of success. Success, the way society defines it, as becoming rich and famous. And what happens to a prisoner? What is the first thing that happens to a prisoner?
He's taken away from all his wealth and possession.
Okay, he doesn't have access to the wealth and accessories that he or she has. Okay, what else? Pallavi, Gopinath, Vinay, Gopi, you can answer in the chat box. He's shackled, arrested. Freedom is taken away. You're no longer free. Hmm? Freedom is curtailed. Yes, Vinay. So that's quite significant. No one wants to give away their freedom. Hmm? But a prisoner is his or her freedom is restricted, curtailed, and denied. Yeah. So what do you think about prisoners of success that the society today is producing? Hmm. Prisoners of success in the sense that before attaining success, the hallowed success of being rich and famous, you just somehow push yourself to do things which you are not comfortable doing. Yeah, means going against your values, family values, etc. So you are going against your will, right? अरे कॉर्पोरेट लैडर में चढ़ना है या फिर पैसा कमाना है तो सीधी उंगली से घी नहीं निकलता है, उंगली टेढ़ी करनी पड़ती है. So somewhere you are compromising on the values which you hold sacred. Then you know kiss up, kick down, another corporate mantra. Kiss up the feet of the boss and kick down the head of the person under you. That's how you go up the ladder. So right now today you are kicking someone else down, but remember someone else up will kick you down, right? So aren't is it not the feature of a prisoner? Hmm. Doing things which are undesirable, which are not beneficial for oneself, or which are curtailing one's freedom. So one is forced to act in a certain way to get that success. And once you get that success, there's so much insecurity. I need to, I have to retain this success. I wish to retain the title of being rich and famous. Hmm? And you have rich people who become so obsessed with the uh, conception of them being rich, but then becoming depressed seeing that अरे इतना पैसा आ गया उसके बाद भी मेरे आगे इतने लोग हैं. Yeah. And then there are so many people around you who are um, eyeing your money. Hmm? And then you are constantly in insecurity and fear, right? So and to maintain that success, that fame, you can see the like the social media influencers, like they somehow or the other they need to create a reel which sells somehow or other, isn't it? You can sell your values, you can sell your family time, you can sell yourself to get that fame and to get that money, right? Is it not what people are doing? So that success at the cost of selling one's own values, freedom, all of that I would call to becoming a prisoner of success. And therefore Bhagavatam says तावद् रागादयस्तेन तावद् कारगृहं ग्रहं तावद् मोहोङ्गृढि निगडो यावत् कृष्ण न ते जनः. For someone uh, who is not spiritually inclined, for someone who is not spiritually connected, raga, one's attachment that one has towards one's possession, are like thieves. Thieves, generally, possessions are something which you own, but attachment to these possessions, they are called as thieves, which steal away from you your freedom, which steal away from you from your own soul. Ta- Tavad raga destena, your attachment steal your soul. Tavad kara graham graham, your house or your kingdom or your fortress which you have created with your own. Everyone has a fortress. Even a dog has his fortress, which means his gully. So we spend so much to create a fortress for ourselves, a mark on the society that we create for ourselves. But then that becomes like a shackle. That becomes like a prison. Tavad uh, kara graham graham. That one's home becomes one's fortress becomes a prison, and one's freedom of thought is restricted. Oh, I have this is what I have been, and this I have to continue to be, right? Even though the situation may not allow you, but you are caught up with that past. Tavad mohongri nigdo, your attachment becomes like shackles, which binds you to a certain conception of being rich and famous. So this is what the ambition of just attaining wealth and fame can do, can bind us to that desire. Mm. And wealthy are not those who truly wealthy are not those who have the most, but truly wealthy are those who need the least. Because there's no end to having. You will always find someone who has more. Even Elon Musk cannot afford to be even a bit mm, carefree, or um, he has to be always on the guard, because otherwise he will be overtaken. He's being overtaken, right? Adani can't let down the guard. Ambani can't let down the guard. And even if you keep your guard on, you'll still find there are people who are richer than you. Yeah. So therefore, wealth being wealthy is not about having the most. Being wealthy is about needing the least. Yeah, and that comes with inner satisfaction. Let's see what the Bhagavad Gita talks about this concept or this theme in the 16th chapter. So Krishna says in the verse 10, 11, and 12. This is very interesting. 16.10, 11, and 12. कामम् आश्रित्य दुष्पूरं दम्भ मान मदान्विता मोहात् गृहीत्वसात् ग्राहान् प्रवर्तन्ते अशुचिव्रत. taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige. The demoniac, thus illusioned, are always fond to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. Permanent. So I was talking of unclean work, things which you have to sell your conscience to do, or so those kind of things one has to do because kamam ashritya dushpuram, to satisfy the insatiable desires or lust. One is forced to do things, and if you have to, if there's fires raging somewhere, how do you douse that fire? By bringing a barrel of gasoline, petrol, and pouring it over the fire. It's liquid, right? It may appear कि ये fire है, fire के ऊपर liquid डालो बुझ जाएगा, but if you pour a barrel of gasoline, petrol, it is obvious it is going to rage more. Hmm? It will suck you also into that. Yeah. So therefore, desires or lust, the more we feed them, the more they feed on us. Yeah. So there's no end to feeding the desires. And then what does Krishna says in the 11th verse? Chintam aparimeyam cha pralayantam upashyata kamapubhoga parama etavar iti nishchita. Because these desires are, even one is working so hard, still remain unfulfilled. So chintam aparimeyam cha, unlimited anxiety. Oh, I wanted this, I wanted that, I wanted to achieve that position, I wanted that promotion. And what if it doesn't happen? What if that doesn't work out? What if the interest rates falls down? What if the stock market crashes? There's so many anxieties because to attain and to retain that false sense of success, one actually creates a prison around oneself, that this is how I am supposed to be. And then Asha Pasha Shatair Baddha Kama Krodha Parayana Ihante Kama Bhogartham Anan Anya Nenartha Sanchayan. One is bound by Asha Pasha, the shackles of desires. Shatair, hundreds of shackles of desires. Kama Krodha Parayana. And one is driven by lust and anger, and one is working so hard, so feverishly, one is working so hard to fulfill, to working so hard to douse the fire of desires with the petrol of sense gratification, the petrol of material achievement. The more you pour in that fire, the more it is going to rage. It's not going to stop that way. So therefore, Krishna is saying that there's no end to this network of desires. And interestingly, there's a very nice verse which says that आशानां मनुष्याणां कश्चित् आश्चर्य श्रृंखला यया बद्धा प्रधावन्ति मुक्त तिष्ठन्ति पंगुवत, कि एक आशा नाम की बड़ी जबरदस्त श्रृंखला है, आशा नाम की बहुत बड़ी चेन है. ये चेन ऐसी है जो इससे बंधा है, वो बहुत तेज भाग रहा है मतलब पसीने छूट रहे हैं, बहुत हालत खराब हो रही है, चक्कर आ रहे हैं, लेकिन वो भाग रहा है. लेकिन जो इससे मुक्त है वो शांति से बैठा है. सो आशा पाश, दैट इज अ shackle of desire. And today's civilization is very expert as shackling with you with unlimited desires. That's what Gita says. Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya aparata chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidyate. They don't have one pointed intelligence. They are branched into so many thoughts and desires. They can't focus. They can't be peaceful. So therefore, let's, at least the youth of today, I might sound to be a bit mm, pessimistic, or a bit discouraging about success, or discouraging about becoming rich and famous. What's wrong with it? One of the boys whom I was talking to, he was saying, अरे मंदिर में भी जो रिच होते हैं, जो बड़े डोनर होते हैं, उनको आप स्पेशल दर्शन देते हो ना. So what about that? So I said they get a special darshan, mm, but does Krishna see them? Mm? So does Krishna specially see them? They may specially see Krishna when others cannot, but does Krishna see them? Does Krishna notice them? So it's not about being donating a big amount or a small amount. Krishna says patram pushpam phalam toyam. Even if you give something small to Krishna with a heart full of devotion, Krishna is most happy. And even if you give um, a fortune but with pride, Krishna doesn't care for it. Yeah. So it's not that I am discouraging being rich and famous. I'm just talking of the mindset and the method by which you become rich and famous. The mindset should not be the goal is to become rich and famous. The method should not be that I do whatever I can or I need to do to become rich and famous. Rich and famous, becoming rich and famous is a byproduct. So how in today's times you do whatever you need to do to become successful, and then you will be happy. But the Vedic paradigm is if you are happy doing what you are supposed to do, then you will automatically become successful. Hmm. So if you are acting as per your swabhav, if success doesn't come by competing with others, the definition which the world carries for success is compete and defeat others. Gita's definition of success is align yourself to your inner nature. Hmm. If you align yourself, so success outside is based on looking at others, what they are doing, how can I do better than them? But Gita says simplify things, look within. You keep on comparing with hundreds of people and thousands of people, and then you get confused. ये करूँ या वो करूँ? Hmm? इससे आगे बढ़ूँ, उससे आगे बढ़ूँ. So Krishna says, just look within. What is the special gift which God has given you, and align yourself to that. And when you align yourself to the special gift of ability or inclination which Krishna has given you, wonders are bound to happen. And the sterling example which is in talk today is that of an MBA executive, hmm, Arun Yogiraj, who gave up his so-called definition of being rich and famous, being a top-notch MBA executive, to follow his calling. Okay, what is it that I have been blessed with? Not to control and manage things, and but to 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 allow God to manifest the art through my hands. And then you see Lord Ram, he chose to appear through his craftsmanship because he heard his calling. He didn't suppress his calling. He didn't suppress his own nature. So if he kept on comparing with others, अरे ये मेरे साथ एमबीए किया था, अभी वो बड़ा जनरल मैनेजर बन गया है, सीईओ बन गया है, ये हो गया, then he would have probably lived a miserable life all through. But he heard his calling, and then you see, so yeah, he heard his calling, which was he heard his inner voice aligned to it, which was being a sculptor for someone. It may be being a manager, but then it should not be based on comparison. Just because others are doing, if you keep doing things, then even if you become rich and famous, you will be miserable. Yeah, so these are some thoughts, and I'd like to hear from Surya and all of you.
Yes, bro, that definitely was a broad vision of life and overall life, that success is a part of life. Rich and being rich and famous is a part of life, but not the entire life.
The goal of life.
Right.
It's a byproduct, which
Yeah.
happens naturally if you align yourself to your nature. Then you have the Vedic system believes in barter system. You give something valuable, you will get something valuable, which you need. Yeah. So modern form of, Gopinath is here. So something about finance. The modern understanding of finance is that somehow, if you can accumulate these numbers in terms of uh, cash, or in terms of shares, or in terms of bank account numbers, you are rich. But Vedic definition is, don't worry about numbers. Numbers are very misleading. You give something valuable to the society, you will get something back. The law of karma will act. So uh, so so when you offer something valuable to the society, you definitely, by default, the society reciprocates. Krishna reciprocates, the universe reciprocates, and then you get um, being rich and famous automatically.
We are running behind the symptom, but not the process. Thank you very much, Prabhu. And briefly, you mentioned about being desirous, and that is one of the blocks. And you mentioned about lust, and you compared it with the fire. And another issue with lust and fire is it is uncontrollable, and it is what the current generation is also struggling with. And there's a lot of talk about this in the present day decision makers, that should sex education be imparted to kids at a young age, or as they grow they'll be aware of it. And sh- so shouldn't they be empowered to make informed decisions if they are educated right away at their young age, or does that have negative effects as well?
So this is a very a topic uh, which has actually ruined the Western civilization. You look at the Western civilization, it is in shambles, it is in tatters, in terms of family, in terms of families, in terms of harmony in the society, in terms of the synergy among the individuals, because of this one thing of introducing sex education. Hmm? Which at a tender age, when the mind is supposed to be innocent, it is not only being bombarded from the media and the cinemas and social media with um, with all of this imagery, but they are also in very explicitly being educated, hmm, about these things. And this is considered as, okay, we are empowering them to make the right choices. But tell me, does any animal need that? Huh? Have you ever seen a school for animals where they are being given all of this kind of education? It's the biological machine is by default geared up to act in a certain way. Yeah, you don't have to train people for खाना कैसे खाना है, मतलब बच्चे को पैदा होते ही पता होता है कि माँ का दूध पीना है। यू डोंट नीड टू पहले बच्चे को स्कूल में भेजो, पढ़ाओ कैसे। अरे बाय डिफॉल्ट नेचर ने आपको the god which who there's a saying, the god who gives you mother's milk when you don't have teeth, the same god gives you you know teeth when it is time for you to chew chickpeas. Hmm? So so all of that biological programming God has given you. You don't have, it's a myth. It's a complete lie that you need to give this education for children. No animal has that education. It's a biological function which is automatically in program. Now I would say the answer is yes and no. Yes, there should be sex education, but the way Prahlad Maharaj gave to his classmates. Hmm? Prahlad Maharaj says, Yan maithunadi grahamedi sukham hi tukham kandu nayena karyoरिव दुःख दुःख कंडूतिवत् मनसिजम विषहेत धीरा. So he says that what is sex life? It is nothing but scratching an itch. The enjoyment of sex pleasure is nothing but scratching an itch. So if you have got a sore or an itch, so how does it feel? Irritable, right? Your entire attention again and again gets transferred to that itch or sore. And then what do?
You itch it again and
You scratch it, you scratch it.
yeah, yeah.
And what do you feel when you scratch that itch?
You need to scratch it again and again.
But that time you feel very good.
Right.
For that moment when you're scratching, it feels good, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then what happens? You leave it for 15-20 seconds, and again it
Mm.
starts itching. And
Mm.
your hand goes again and you start scratching, and again it feels good. For a few minutes you leave it, again it itches, and then you keep scratching so much that it starts, the wound becomes deeper and starts bleeding and becomes more serious. So Prahlad Maharaj, who is a 5-year-old child, he has this sex education. So this is the kind of sex education which the Vedic society gives, that don't don't uh, gear your life making lust as the goal of life, fulfilling propensity for love, lust as a goal of life, or how to do it, you know, and what to do, how to do, why not to do it. That's the sex education, which is basically restraint. Hmm? So restraint is what is taught in the Vedic scriptures, because now when you talk of itch, hmm, so when there is an itch, first of all, it takes away all your attention from the important things. Hmm? You're doing something important, but then that itch, they say, oh, you see the task manager of the computer. Oh, why I understand why the computer is slow, because 70% memory is taken up by this browser or this application. When you close that application, now the computer runs fast. And many times you wonder, why am I not progressing in spiritual life? Hmm. There's a background application which is taking up a lot of space. So Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj is comparing, lust to an itch. And what does itch do? It takes away our attention from that which is really important. Yeah. And then second thing is, when you scratch it, it feels good. But that feeling of good is not pleasure. That is absence of pain. Yeah, that moment, that is just an illusion of pleasure. So that kind of education, yes, by all means, it has to be given, because that makes us humans. That makes us different from animals. Otherwise, the actually, to be an animal, you don't need education, right? To become a human means not how to enjoy your senses, but how to restrain your senses. And that's what education is meant to do. And Chanakya Pandit, what is the kind of education he is giving us? Look at every woman other than wife as mother. Yeah, that's such a sacred principle. Mm. Because the most sacred relationship with the opposite gender you can have is with the mother or the father, you know, depending on boy or girl. So Chanakya Pandit says you should look at others as mother or father. Mm. So whereas what is the modern philosopher Sigmund Freud, he's saying, now Chanakya Pandit is saying, look at every woman as mother. And what is Sigmund Freud saying? That you know why a child is attached, a boy is attached to mother more and a girl is attached to father more? Because the sexual orientation, kind of, even in that sacred relationship of parent and child, they are perverted and, perverting it and screwing up, uh, lustful overtones. Whereas Chanakya Pandit, even, apparent, looking at a female, is saying, look at as a mother. So he's bringing the motherly conception even where there could be lust, and they are bringing lust where there could be a sacred relationship. Yeah, where there is a sacred relationship. So that's what is the philosophy which which has actually destroyed Western civilization, which is destroying Western civilization. There is no concept of family now. There is no concept of security. Yeah, the government has to pay in for the social security completely. Yeah, yeah, most of the children are out of the wedlock, and so and so forth, thanks to this kind of education. But what does Krishna say? Krishna talks about the philosophy of the demoniac, and he says, Kim anyat kama haitukam asatyam apratistham te jagad ahur anishwaram paraspar sambhutam kim anyat kama haitukam. Are, there's no purpose of this existence other than to enjoy one's senses and engage in lust. So this is the philosophy which actually create this kind of perversion, that even children have to be exposed to these kind of things, which actually spoils their innocence. And if at all, we described what Prahlad Maharaj talks about, education, and that can be done. How to restrain, how to become a human. Otherwise, to be an animal, it doesn't take any education.
That's such a beautiful answer, bro. Thank you. And when you said yes and no, I didn't expect you would take it in such a beautiful direction. Yeah. Bro, there is an unspoken propaganda in today's day and age. Is there any disturbance, bros?
I can hear you
Mm,
clearly.
yeah. Okay. There's an unspoken propaganda, bro, these days that the bad boys or the demonic people are considered cool, bold, and strong. And and if you're a weakling, stupid, and then you prefer to be divine and spiritual and all this. And spirituality is considered for the weak. And so there's always a peer pressure for people who are actually trying to get into the path of spirituality. So how to handle this peer pressure, Prabhu? Do you have any advice?
Okay, I want to show of hands, or how many feel that they come across this kind of peer pressure, or pressure to be cool, be bold, and be strong, and let your animalistic instincts out, and not don't be this Behenji types, or don't be सीधा साधा गांव का लड़का. Be cool, पियो, खाओ, पियो, मजा करो. So how many of you come across such peer pressure at, you know your college or workplace? Yeah. So yes, Gopinath. Yes. Others, I think they give pressure to others. Hmm. So yes, that's something which is a phenomena, especially in these days, uh, where, you know the social construct is such that to be, to live a spiritual lifestyle is looked down upon. And people derive strength from, bullying people who want to be teetotalers, who don't want to get into alcohol and drugs. So they are bullied. And even office में भी, तू दारू पार्टी में क्यों नहीं आता है, तेरा promotion रोक दूंगा मैं. Yeah, so this is the level of uh, uh, what is the question of freedom? We talk of so much. This is an age of freedom, but where's the freedom? So yes, people want to exert their power over others to prove themselves to be superior. But Charlie Chaplin once said a very nice thing. With all the comedy that he did, he spoke something very serious also. He said, "You need power only when you want to do something harmful. Otherwise, for the rest of the things, love is enough." Yeah. So people are, after exerting themselves over others, कि मैं सही तू गलत. Yeah. That's what power is needed. That's what they want to show their boldness and courage. कि मैं सही तू गलत. Yeah. So first thing is to convince ourselves. We are not out there to convince them because it takes a lot of agyat sukruti. It takes a lot of spiritual credits to be able to have spiritual awakening. मनुष्य नाम सहस्त्रेषु कश्चित यतति सिद्धे. कृष्णा ने बोल दिया भाई, हजार में से कोई एक मिलेगा जो सोचेगा थोड़ा ये गीता पढ़ना चाहिए. हम्म? बाकी 999 people will not even in their dreams think about spirituality. So that's the turf, that's the mm, pitch that we are playing on. Yeah. So that is the first thing, that we are not out there to convince them. We are first job is to convince ourselves, and if we are convinced, then no one can shake us. And we need to move out of the paradigm that we need social validation to believe in what I'm doing. Hmm? Now all of us are very happy that अरे पूरा इंडिया, भारत का बच्चा बच्चा जय जय श्री राम बोलेगा. सो नाउ वी आर, अरे मैं तो पहले ही सही चॉइस किया था, मैं तो पहले इस्कॉन में हरे कृष्णा ये सब देखो. सो if we need the society to you know come up for an event and a festival and then we say अरे हाँ मैं, मेरे को डाउट्स तो थे लेकिन अब मैं पक्का हो गया कि यही है, भक्ति सही पाथ है. कल को if the society goes in some other direction, will you change your path? So we should not determine our goals and aspirations in life based on social validation. If the people validate us, then I am right. If not, we are wrong. No, it should be based on, which Krishna says in his chapter, tasmat shastra pramanam te karya akarya vyavasthito. So by shastra, based on shastra, we should understand this is right, this is wrong. And even if the 8 billion people on planet are saying कि तुम गलत हो, तुम गलत हो, तुम गलत हो, नहीं सुनना तुम्हारी. कृष्णा ने बोला मैं सही रास्ते पे हूं तो मैं सही रास्ते. Yeah, that should be the kind of confidence. So the first business we should have is to convince ourselves based on reading of the scriptures. And then now getting back to them, if we work on ourselves to convince ourselves based on philosophy, based on logic, based on our practice and experience of bhakti, that yes, this is the right thing and I am on the right path. First, we convince ourselves. Then now we also need to get back to them. So what do we do? Uh, First, best thing you can do is, the easiest thing you can do is ignore, stay away. As Gopiji had said, just stay away from them. You don't need to, you know, you don't need to spend time with them to feel valued and validated. So keep a safe distance. Then secondly, uh, sometimes when you, even if you ignore, what happens when you ignore, it's like putting a pin in the balloon. They are just trying to somehow or other contempt your practices, be contemptful of your practices and your belief systems, and then अरे राम वाम तो ये तो imaginary किसके मस्तिष्क से निकले हुए हैं. Good, I mean say 100 things, but then you see भाई मैं कुछ बोलूंगा तो भी इसका ब्रेन सब्सटेंस है नहीं समझने का. सो ओके ठीक है बोलते रहो. So when there's the right time and the right forum, then you speak out also. So try to ignore, and then but sometimes you also need to mm, confront, but confrontation not in the game of ego. Many times we mistake that I have to uh, fight with them in in their battle. So their battle is a battle of ego. They want to prove themselves superior. Don't go into that battle. And when Gajendra goes into the water, the crocodile wins. So when you go, when you argue or discuss with them with a mindset of I want to prove myself superior and him to be foolish. तो अगर हम पर्सनली ले लिया उनके कमेंट्स को और अपने ईगो पे ले लिया तो then what happens, somewhere or other you will become angry and upset, and then they'll say देख ली तेरी spirituality, तुझे भी गुस्सा आता है मुझे भी गुस्सा आता है, क्या फर्क है. Yeah, so you can't win on the level of ego. Yeah, so then how should I present? So the one thing which we can do is ask them questions. Ask them, like they are asking questions, you ask them questions. अच्छा आपने बोला कि बी थोड़ा दर्द क्या ये क्या डर के आगे जीत है, थोड़ा कुछ ऐसा कूल बोल्ड ये सब बनो. So you ask them what is the definition of cool. Ask them, does being cool mean exposing your lungs to toxic, cancerous, carcinogenic, hot fumes? Is that what definition of cool is for you? Then keep that cooldom with you, because for me that cooldom is fooldom. So you ask them questions. Then be strong. ये तुम क्या? You are just getting brainwashed by these Hare Krishna people. You ask them, what does being strong mean? Being strong means being a slave? Yeah, I am choosing to do what the lifestyle which I am choosing, but are you choosing your lifestyle? ये रणवीर सिंह ने एक दाढ़ी बना दिया, तेरे को भी दाढ़ी बनाना है या वैसा ही विराट कोहली ने एक तो ये तेरा चॉइस है कि किसी और का चॉइस है, तू जस्ट कॉपी कर रहा है. सो ask them question, does being strong means being a slave of chemicals? मतलब तुम तो बोले तो बड़ा strong है, but then you can't resist alcohol and drugs and other things which are ruining your health, ruining your life, ruining your relationships. What kind of strength is that? If that is being strong, I want to be weak. I want to be strong in another way, to say no to things which are harmful for me. So yeah, so there are different strategies which we can use. Um, and but the first thing is to convince ourselves, and as far as possible ignore or keep a safe distance. Do just the business interactions that you need to do. Don't hold any grudges against them, because they don't know better. They are not having that privilege that you have. So don't take it on ego कि मुझे इससे इसको ईगो में मेरे से inferior prove करना है. जब हनुमान जी was jumping over the ocean, then there was this demon called Surasa, and Surasa, she opened her mouth, and Hanumanji was flying, and Hanumanji, then seeing that he will enter her mouth, he became bigger than her mouth, and seeing him become bigger, Surasa became even bigger, and her mouth became like a big, cave trying to engulf him. He became even bigger. She became bigger. This was not ending only. Then he realized, I can't win by becoming big. She had a bone that she will, no one can cross her without entering her mouth, which means becoming her breakfast. So Hanumanji said, okay, I can. He became immediately very small, entered her mouth, and came back. So that's how many times we need to deal with these kind of people, that sometimes chill, don't take it on ego, don't take it personally, just sometimes humor is okay.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. And that was required, Prabhu. And I have struggled during the my college days, facing such people, and eventually I associated with people like you, and they also gave me advice like this, which really helped me. And I feel people in the audience are really getting helped by such enlightening advice. And Prabhu, you mentioned a couple of categories: the demoniac and the divine. And when we think, what determines that someone will be demoniac or they will be divine? Do they come wired है, पहले से जन्म से फिक्स होता है, या can we change it? Is it can we develop it in our nature? Or can we nurture it, or is it by God given nature?
Okay, mm, are you castigated to be divine or demoniac? Are you, cast like that कि तुम ऐसे ही हो, हम्म, और तुम्हें ऐसे ही रहना पड़ेगा, क्या, और वो व्यक्ति वैसा ही है? So that's something which can make us very hopeless. कि अरे, why is this person having such gentle manly nature or such divine nature, and I have these demonic tendencies in me? Krishna gives us a very good news. These are just conditionings which we have tied ourselves up with. So you can, all of these demoniac natures, their tendencies, they are not set in stone. They are just, they are things which can be changed. These are impressions which can be um, overwritten with good impressions, and you can, essentially, each one of us is a divine being, part and parcel of God. But it is these conditionings, because of our contact with material nature, trying to exploit material nature, that we borrow all of these demoniac qualities. And the good news is, by coming in touch with divine people, divine literature, and divine lifestyle, we can actually rekindle our divine nature. Mhm. And Krishna says in this chapter, in the 16th chapter towards the end, he says, and the whole through the whole chapter, if you look at it, Krishna is giving a sequence. Mhm. The sequence is your pramana, or your faith, the foundation of your faith. What is the foundation of your faith, or what is the cornerstone of your faith, determines your philosophy. Your philosophy determines your attitude or worldview, the way you look at the world. Your attitude or worldview determines your behavior. मतलब जो माइंड में चलता है उसको एटीट्यूड बोलते हैं, जो एक्शन में आता है उसको बिहेवियर बोलते हैं. Yeah. So your attitude determines your behavior, and behavior determines consequences. So the sequence is your belief system determines your philosophy. Your philosophy determines your attitude. Attitude determines behavior, and behavior determines consequences. And Krishna's, this entire 16th chapter, Krishna is talking about the attitude, behavior, and consequences for the divine. Attitude, behavior, and consequences for the demoniac. ABC. Attitude leads to behavior, behavior leads to consequences. And what are the consequences? Chintam aparimeyam cha pralayantam. One is weighed down by unlimited anxieties, a demoniac person. There is no sukha, no success in this life or the next. And then Krishna even says that Krishna tamaha dushitah kuran samsareshu naradaman shipami ajashram ashubhan asurish eva yonishu. Such a person is miserable in this life, and in the next life they take birth in Asuri Yonishu. They don't get the privilege of human birth again. Born as cockroach somewhere, pigeon somewhere, or in the hellish conditions of life, right? Because if we don't act based on divine nature, we don't need a divine body. We can, if we are just interested or inclined for eating, sleeping, mating, defending, animals can do it much better, yeah, and happily. Yeah, so that's more suited in terms of design. Essentially, what Krishna is saying is that the consequences for those who are demoniac are very um, grave. And why are the consequences grave? Because the behavior, what is the behavior of people? Let me read out for you. What are the behavior of the demoniac people? Pravritim cha nivritim cha jana na vidurasura. Na shaucham, na pichacharo. They don't have any good actions. They asatyam. They'll speak untruth. They will hurt others. They will harm others. They will find pleasure in hurting others, and they don't have any discrimination on what is good and what is bad. Yeah, so this is the behavior. And what is the attitude or the worldview of the people? Hmm? That Krishna determines. The philosophy of these demoniac people is the very nice verse, 8th verse, which says, Asatyam apratishtham te jagad ahur anishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kim anyat kama hetukam. So these are the three prominent philosophies of 21st century. Hmm. Asatyam, Mayavad philosophy, which says this world is an illusion. Hmm. That Surya Prabhu doesn't exist, I don't exist, this table doesn't exist, everything is a grand illusion. And uh, by actually following the Mayavad doctrine, you will be that curtain of illusion, which is illusory, will be removed, and then you will just be or exist as a spiritual reality. There's no variegatedness. Now, what happens with this kind of a conception? That you don't respect people. Hmm? You become impersonal with people. You become impersonal with the planet. What is the reason of the rampant pollution and climate change, everything? Because we are impersonal with the planet. What is the reason of so many heartburns and so much heartbreaks? Because being impersonal with people. So that's the result of the Mayavad philosophy. Asatyam apratishtham jagad ahur anishwaram. Anishwar, atheism. There is no God. Kisne dekha hai? Hmm? That is another philosophy. And paraspara sambhutam. That just by combination of matter, we have been formed. Darwin's theory, by theory of evolution, or the Buddhist theory that actually there is no soul. It's just matter all around, and matter in its stage of evolution has become these forms of you and me. And just like a building is made up of bricks, and if you break the building, it again becomes bricks. So we are a building made up of bricks, which is matter. And if you break the building, we again become matter. There is no soul. So these kind of philosophies, they basically take away one from God and one from the soul. And then ki manyat kam hai tu kam, are baba chodo na. This world is meant for sex, pleasure, lust, and enjoyment. That's all. So these are the three philosophies to, um, you know, save the world from Srila Prabhupada's cane. What is Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantra?
नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिने नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतः.
If you look at the 8th verse of the Gita, 16th chapter, it talks about these three philosophies. Nirvisheshavad, Asatyam, Apratishtham. The world is illusory. Mayavad philosophy. Nirvisheshavad, impersonalism. That's the first philosophy Srila Prabhupada came to defeat. Then Shunyavad. Shunyavad means there is no God, there is no soul. Yeah, basically it boils things down to matter. That's the Buddhist philosophy. That's the Charles Darwin's philosophy in another way. Hmm? And that Shunyavad philosophy was also defeated by Prabhupada. And then Paschatya Desh. The philosophy of the Paschatya Desh is just enjoy. Don't think about past, present, or future. You only live once. Hmm? Maza karo. So these are the three philosophies which are the root of demoniac nature. So if we want to change the consequences for the world and for us, we need to change the everyone in the chat box. What do we need to change? If I need to change the consequences, I need to change the C for consequences, B for
Behavior.
behavior. And if I need to change the behavior, what I need to change?
The attitude.
Attitude or worldview. Hmm?
Mm.
And where does the attitude or worldview come from? From the philosophy. Hmm? And these are the philosophies of materialistic demoniac civilization: Nirvisheshvad, impersonalism, Shunyavad, voidism, or theory of evolution, uh, or Paschatya Desh philosophy of you only live once, just enjoy senses. So these are the three philosophies which have created the demoniac civilization we are living in and suffering from today. So if you want to change the consequences, we need to change we will need to change the behavior, which means we need to change the attitude, which ultimately means which need to change the philosophy. And the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is the antidote to this false philosophy, these false philosophies. The philosophy that we are all servants and parts and parcel of the supreme loving God, Krishna, the all attractive God, Krishna. And when we are in alignment with Him, we are in alignment with the whole universe and with ourselves. So that is a savior, saving grace, which La Prabhupada has given for all of us. So yeah, and so basically, how do we change the philosophy? By changing our praman, rather than um, you know having the praman as social media or as our feed for our intelligence. If it is the social media or the news, that will create a different philosophy in our head. But if we want the absolute truth philosophy, we need to feed our intelligence with spiritual literatures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. on a regular basis. And then the philosophy will change our attitude, behavior, and consequences. Everything will change. So that's something which can change us and change the world.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for showing the entire path, how it goes. And thank you to Srila Prabhupada and saints like him who have enlightened this world and stopped us from falling into the well, Nirvisheshavad and Shunyavad and the Paschatya philosophies. Thank you. Does Prabhu, do we have time for questions, audience questions?
Just 5 minutes. If there are any quick questions,
Yeah, sure. You can type it in the chat box or you can unmute yourself.
we'll be beginning our 17th chapter next week, hopefully. And so just 2 more chapters to go. We have come a long distance. Uh, I'm looking forward to reading the Gita again. And so thank you all very much for joining us week after week and giving us your encouragement and participation, because of which we are able to continue this discussion. And thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Srila
Prabhu.
Bhagavad
Thank you.
Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki
Enjoy. Thank you.